side where it's just then sitting on.
It's like a door stopper. It's like a door stopper mixed with
It's like that.
with a closet railing.
Yeah, it's like that. Yeah.
And it's beautiful.
No one's talking about it, which kind of shows how little people care about science anymore, you know?
Well, that just shows that just separates the IQ difference.
Yeah, also, it looks very
When I look at what he's doing.
I will say, if you look at it, it looks very simple, because it is, and it's supposed to be, and that's a good thing, right? The simpler the engineering, the better it actually is, because if the engineering is overcomplicated, then it's inefficient. It's a problem. You don't want that. You want the thing to work properly.
Well, how could it be overcomplicated if Tesla already semi-did it? If you can apply autonomous driving, you can apply autonomous flying.
I suppose, but those are very different systems.
They're very different systems, but in theory, they work similar.
I wouldn't say so.
I'm not sure.
Disagree with that.
No, that's a very different thing.
Then how is it achieved in such a short amount of time?
Well, because you already have that to a certain extent, right? Because you have the booster return that already happens via the Falcon rockets, right? So you have that. You can build on that as a foundation, I suppose. So you kind of already know what you're doing. It's positioning the rocket right, maneuvering it properly, and
Scale up.
eventually catching it. Yeah, because it has to stay straight. It has to come down with the proper speed, so it doesn't fly apart. Then you need to get it to slow down, make sure that enough of the propeller remain. Then position it correctly so that it can actually just sit there, because you're just balancing this tiny little this thing. It's not really tiny. You're balancing this thing. It's insane.
It's tiny in comparison to,
And it's a different problem in that where you have the boosters that come down, they have these feet, right? But when it comes to the legs, they have these legs, have 4 legs, and this thing is different because it doesn't have any legs at all. It just has the big ass engines on the bottom, 33 of them, and just sits on these door stopper looking things. It's crazy. I don't know what the thing is actually called. Maybe somebody can tell me what the terminology of it is, so I can actually use the proper terminology. Yes. Exactly. 100%.
It was cool to be. I don't have no. Or maybe he's just quizzing us.
Oh my god.
Look up ChatGPT. Look up the goes in ChatGPT. I don't even know.
You called me, but we was talking about motherfucking Jen.
I just called you a little bit ago.
Oh, my phone.
I didn't like that. Every time, we always have this dark side conversation. Y'all want to wait into the middle of fucking awards to say who the fuck dark side and who ain't. Y'all ain't had this motherfucking conversation the last fucking couple days.
Yeah, but it's the goo and the goo know, and I fuck with woke. That's my baby. But bringing up woke in this dark mainstream conversation.
I was talking about when Larry was. I think Larry won the first award, and they started saying all this shit. Then that's when Larry was like, "Hey, I'm the only motherfucker who be opening, we be, opening up these motherfucking rooms and shit like that." He was like, you know what I'm saying? They always want to go into all
these things. Be honest, Drew. I feel like, and I'm gonna just say it.
Or whatever. Yeah.
Hi, my penis is circumcised and I feel natural.
It's okay. You can. Is this your new account, Clown? There's no.
I was the 2024 Clown House Troll of the Year, the 2023 Clown House Troll of the Year, 2020, 2021, 2022. I'm the troll, the Clown House Troll.
That's all good. Well, no. Thank you for pointing out your new account.
No, thank you. I just wanted to say my penis feels liberated today because the circumcision left it beautiful, perfectly circumferenced.
Is this Scott?
Scott, alcoholic Scott, the Catholic, the intellectual?
He goes by a few names.
The podcaster?
He's just a very sad, lonely person.
Stop projecting, Romero.
No. If it smells like a lonely person, if it walks like a lonely person, if it talks like a lonely person.
The fuck, bro? I just got laid the other day.
Doesn't mean you're not lonely.
I'm not lonely. I got Clown House.
Why are you here then if you're not lonely?
I'm just gonna text my girl. Sweet dreams, beautiful.
Okay, cool.
Hope you had a nice party. I'm lonely. Romero knows the truth.
I do. I've had my finger on the pulse when it comes to you forever.
Really?
Is this the same guy? The first conversation I ever had with you, I was like, wow, this is such a sad person.
Really?
Come on. Yeah, I see you as a sad, broken person.
Holy shit. Why? How am I broken and how am I sad?
Because you're here begging for my attention and other people's attention. Because if you just talk normally, maybe people wouldn't give you the attention you want.
Really?
You have to put on this performance.
Mm.
It's just sad.
Mm.
Like, I never find it funny. I'm always just like, fuck. Annoying at best, tragic at worst.
I'll agree with you on the annoying part for sure, without a doubt.
But what is that? That's a cry for attention, right? And the fact that you came in here looking for me,
Looking for you? Ooh, red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag. No one's looking for you.
I think you've had a crush on me for a while.
A crush?
Yeah.
This is becoming gay.
I don't know if it's your sexual orientation, but I think
My sexual orientation is self-centered, narcissistic, debased.
Uh-huh.
Oh, wait, my friend in Beverly Hills is calling me about the new franchise I'm opening in your neighborhood.
Cool. What is it?
Little Caesars.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Do you like pizza?
Good pizza, the way I like good people.
What kind of pizza do you like?
That's private information, bro.
What about the people?
Good people. People that are reasonable, people that
I'm not reasonable?
aren't starving. I don't think so.
Why not?
I think that you're 100% purely performative.
Really?
I think that you get joy out of disrupting and getting people to talk to you out of anger.
Joy now.
Yeah, I mean that's why I block you most of the times.
Mostly?
You're just like you're tiresome.
Really?
Yeah, you're mildly exhausting.
Mildly? Interesting. What is
You're
mildly
like
exactly?
You're like the Taco Bell of comedians.
The Taco Bell of comedy?
The Taco Bell of comedians, not comedy.
What? Oh, you're saying that. Well, what if maybe you could upgrade me to Chipotle?
I wouldn't upgrade you to anything. It's not my job to make you better.
But people really like Taco Bell.
If that's the audience you want, God bless, dude.
Oh, you're saying the Taco Bell is an audience now.
I'm not going to keep you. I'm sure you have.
Great, I'm sure you're going to go back to your enlightening conversation. What is it that you... You gotta have haters. You gotta have them.
Very, very violently.
You can't be alive.
Wrath. And that was about 60 years ago.
It's Einstein said. I don't know.
Okay, we'll talk to
I think now
players.
it's 500. They've culled it down for whatever reasons. And then they say, I'm going to bring these kids. I'm going to give them multiple market exposure. So where these kids would, typically pick a region like MEA, for example, Middle East, for example, Africa, for example, North America, and they'll keep rotating these talents. Once they develop sufficient vocabulary and understanding of the market, then they'll be asked to specialize. So there is a geography specialization, then there is an industry specialization, and then they move these kids around. So by the time they're 35, you have 500,000 young kids who are already seasoned in many markets, many industries, who are ready to take over the mantle at the board. This is very important. It's very, very important. So I think that the Hindus, the Indians, Hindu, Muslim, or Christian, whatever. I think the Christians do a better job of this. Through you look at seminaries and all that, they do a wonderful job at this. That's why we should not have any dislike for. We should learn even from those that we don't agree with. See what they do right, what they do well, and then we should look at embracing that and emulating that, and not change ourselves. There's nothing wrong with that.
Correct. So I think in the politics, right, this person holding a portfolio of certain thing must have like maybe worked in the far different state at least for a couple of years or maybe 10. At least a couple of years, and then he's like entitled for something at the center.
How about that? Think about
Yes,
that.
and one of the things that I have been thinking about here is, like, you look at UPSC, and Quran, welcome to the house. You look at UPSC, for example, what they do is they have something called as Bharat Yatra. Are you familiar with this?
No, I'm not.
Okay. So this was entirely created by the British, right? It was conceived, the UPSC system was conceived by the British in Britain. So what they do is, once you crack your UPSC exam, you will go for a 1-year train journey across the country. It's called Bharat Yatra. So where you're positioned in multiple districts, multiple states, and then you get to learn about the local culture, local innuendos. Then you're posted, and then UPSC postings are such that you could be a guy from West Bengal, but you could be posted in Tamil Nadu, and you typically retire in Tamil Nadu. You work only inside Tamil Nadu, unless you get a central posting where you'll be extracted from the Tamil bureaucracy, not Tamil, but the central government bureaucracy in Tamil Nadu. You'll be extracted and you'll be given a central posting. Like, for example, it also happens amongst IPS. Ajit Doval was an IPS officer, but then he was, extracted into the center, for example. That also happens. So your joint secretary level at the center, all these guys are guys who were originally UPSC IAS officers, but they were carved out of the local system because they're good. So similarly, so they go through Bharat Yatra, then they pick they're allotted a region, and then they just work there. Then they go from collector to all the way up to joint secretary to chief secretary after that. That's how they work. Similarly, it's not a bad idea to emulate for the politicians, which I'm weaving this back into your point and something that's very close to my heart. Wherein what they could do is to say, okay, you're an aspiring MLA, what is the first position? It's councillor. So you start off in politics officially, the first position is councillor. So the moment you want to enroll as a councillor, you should be sent off for a 2-year discovery program where you're posted in across the country, 6 months, you're rotated, or maybe 3 years, whatever, paid very well, stipend is very, very good. Where you go, you understand other regions, their compulsions, they are also Indians, their problems that they have, their domestic issues. So that by the time you come and you're ready for being elected, you've gone across the country. And what that does do is the Tamil MLA or the councillor will not sit here and talk shit about Karnataka as though he's a pariah. And the Kannadiga guy who's an MLA there would not be so cruel sometimes to the Tamils by not releasing water. For example, one way in which this could play out. So you develop more integration, more empathy, more understanding of Indian districts, and look at India as a whole and not Tamil Nadu as its standout part. So one of the things that we could do is to, like Deloitte does it, we could say, okay, so every year up to 100,000 people can enroll for this. And then we find where they could be buddied up with outstanding exemplars and, you rotate them. So the Indian next councillor class is truly deeply understanding and reverent to what this country does. They won't make stupid mistakes of throwing the country underneath the bus for political gains, because they've gone through the process.
Yeah. So I'm currently working in a company, right? And I'm going to get I'm taking knowledge from a lot of different people, right? From the different sectors. So I can see that perspective, right? About the project and whatnot, right? So because it is so awesome actually. I can tell you, but it's so good. So because the different people have different perspective, and then you should have art to bring it out actually, right? That perspective. because they could be hesitant. But then, like all people want to talk about what they're doing, and you should take the maximum benefit out of it. So that now you know a lot of different directions, how people are thinking. So there are all the people from different sectors, and I can say, what do you think about the future of the project, or what will be the coming things actually? And they all have a different things to say, because they pursue the project separately, on their own. So somebody would, and I'm into IT, right? Somebody would talk about the coding, somebody would talk about the control, somebody about the moving of the business, right? So what happened, I get a lot of different perspectives. And then I can connect the dots to, and then I can share those dots, right? So that people within those things will aware of the other's viewpoint. And then I say, let us combine, and have it in one meeting. Now you see that how the interaction takes place, and it is so beautiful, so beautiful. I'd say it's awesome learning for me.
Hey, I have a question for you. When you can plural, Ashish, I have a question for you.
Hey, Quran,
Yeah,
what's up?
So I don't know if you've been following this Elon Musk H-1B visa controversy on X, and I'm just, in terms of bringing high-class quality workers into the United States to earn a lot of money, work in AI, work in engineering, and then go back. Why doesn't the governments, have some type of system which is supersedes H-1B visa, where there's a cultural an exchange, not just one way, but people from America also go to India to learn, engineering and software, et cetera. So, why is it one way? I know why it's one way, because people follow the money, but I'm saying, the government would supplement, the exchange of high quality, but government sponsored.
That's a very interesting idea to be mooted, but I would submit that and I've been to the US many times, right? And I've worked with Americans and worked with them previously, and I understand this beautiful country in spite of all its flaws. I had a chance to go to over 50 cities in my journey. It's just a beautiful place. I love the people, but it's got its flaws. But the thing is, one of the reasons why America is America and being firmly placed out of India, I have no problems in admitting to that. One of the reasons is because even if you grant that 70% of Americans aren't the brightest ever, 70% of any population isn't, but particularly if you grant, hypothetically, the 70% in America rank stupid, hypothetically, the top 20% of America are world beaters. There is no equivalent to Henry Ford. There's no equivalent to a Steve Jobs, to a Bill Gates, regardless of the politics. There's no equivalent. And that's because of two reasons. One is that the American system has the capacity to identify you, bag and tag you, and label you, and extract you, and give you opportunities that you would simply not enjoy anywhere else in the world and have access to. That includes infrastructure, mentoring, coaching, as you know, and just opportunities to make money. And the other is a unique phenomenon, which is interdisciplinary collaboration. It's unique to America. Apple is not just a piece of tech, as you know, it's also a work of art. And then you bring this kind of excellence in Wall Street and then into the military-industrial complex. Then what you get is horizontal integration between multiple industries with the top 20 percentile. That is a unique fortress to be breached. Won't be breached for a while. So now you got to position the bright American kid and moot the proposal of moving this kid to another country. And would it serve that kid well? My hunch is, well, culturally it could lead to a lot of good things, and I see the utility of what you're saying. I think it's a good idea. But in terms of access to infrastructure, training, MIT, for example, India has IITs, it's got wonderful universities, but they're only 20% of the overall supply in terms of quality of students they create. So I don't know if it would serve the American cause by bringing these kids to Indian universities, even if they're good, because the really good American universities they're a whole other league. So as much as I like the idea, I wonder how you'd respond to something like that, Quran.
No, I mean, I go from the reference point of that there's not a speck of dust out of place in the whole universe, but because India and the United States are linguistic transfer, you know, it doesn't overlay in China. So there would be huge synergies by doing, you know, a sponsored exchange, meaning, you know, you focus on the top 10 industries or the top 3 industries. I mean, it's just basically STEM, but, you know, geostrategically aligned, I guess, would be IT security, military industrial defense, and, you know, energy or software, whatever. So I'm just saying that, you know, as an American, if you work at Google, you are working with people in India on Google Video, you know, and doing meetings with people in India. So the one-to-one with India is already happening, but it's, you know, it's not happening with China.
Yes, I think Indians you know, Indians generally speaking, are known to be friendly to foreigners and not skeptical about them. And it's remarkable because in spite of generally speaking be extremely circumspect about positioning Indians as victims of history, I would not do that. But generally speaking, in spite of being colonized and being violently assaulted upon, the Indians haven't gotten into the habit of looking at foreigners with a degree of skepticism that the world will forgive them for should they indulge it. And don't be poor and never romanticize poverty. But if you must be poor, be Indian poor, because you're not pissed off with the world. And there is a gleam in their eyes, an enthusiasm and the smile of simple people that don't even have food, which is not pissed off with you. And I think that's a great quality to have. And the reason why that becomes important is because I can see and Americans aren't any different, you know, in spite of the tumultuous times, Americans are generally speaking warm and friendly, and they can surprise you in so many ways that you never thought human beings can surprise you. So there is a utility towards this kind of an exchange, identify strategic industries, complement each other's capacity instead of competing. So if America has a core strength, then instead of vying for a technology transfer on that, an IP transfer, what Indians can do is to see how can I complement you? And how can we make the United States of America and the Republic of India an integral supply chain, where both would stand diminished without each other, ergo both would be gaining with each other. I think generally speaking, that would be a great idea, and I'd love to learn from you as to what else you have in mind to further embellish that.
Yeah, I love the statement that India is the biggest democracy on the planet. You know, Americans are so self-centered, they think that their form of government is actually what it is. That, I mean, it's not what it is. It's not a constitutional republic. So what I'm saying is, in terms of national political philosophy and directives, I mean, I can see how with rampant poverty, communism and wealth redistribution would probably be one of the leading Indian political parties. And I don't know what the actual stats are on the, you know, the political philosophical parties. You know, is it mostly like Democrat / conservative / communist / libertarian, kind of those 4 systems? Do you know what the political philosophical statistical breakdown is in India? I mean, what the...
Yes.
Yeah.
So all the political parties are quintessentially left-leaning, in the sense that you look at the Constitution of India, it's one of the most liberal orders created by humanity from inception. Because there's no point in time where the Indians debated if women need to have voting rights to be franchised, the downtrodden need to be franchised. In those debates, you read the archives of the constitutional debates in India, chaired by Baba Saheb Ambedkar and then a bunch of 7 other people that were co-chairing it along with him. You just look at the archives, and no point in time was it even remotely a question. And then India India indulged in Fabian socialism for a great period of time until 1991. So that kind of created almost a set of untenable expectations from the government. So much so that any modern Indian political party, in order to have a serious future, will have to indulge in this act of, more handouts and laptops and electricity and whatnot. So so to that extent, they are left. However, what is touted to be the right wing in India is also left wing. It's incorrectly positioned by the global media and the Indian elites as being right wing. They're also left wing because Modi's India has done one of the maximum direct transfer programs in human history. Has given food for the maximum number of people in the country for a continual period post the pandemic. They've still persisted. But at the same time, you'll find Modi embracing what you would refer to as, conservative politics, in the sense that in the economic cadre, that is, because he's trimmed the tail of the government. Overindulgence of the government thanks to socialism was the norm. And he's managed to back the government off in certain cases. Over-regulation, too much of bureaucratic discretionary powers. He seems to have done well in pushing the government back. At the same time, he's not compromised on governance. So one of his bylines would be less government and more governance. That's one of his famous bylines. Actually, it's less government and more governance. So, it's like a wide array of political parties in spectruming, if you will, but all of them, in order to get to power, will have to indulge in what is touted to be lefty economics. But at the same time, they know that running the country, leftist economics don't serve the purpose really well, so they have to open up the market. So it's an extremely complicated political system. And it would take a lot of following to understand who's who and what's what. I hope that addresses, or at least in part, the question.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you have like political celebrities too that transcend all political ideology, like the Gandhis. I mean, are they like political royalty because of the name?
Yes. Indira Gandhi wasn't the daughter of Mahatma Gandhi. So she was not a Gandhi, but Gandhi felt through Nehru that if you assume my last name, she was the daughter of Jawaharlal Nehru. So Indira Gandhi was actually Indira Nehru, then Indira Kranti after she got married. But then Mahatma Gandhi said that you can use my last name because politically it will benefit you. And so Indira became a Gandhi. And subsequently, her children, Sanjay Gandhi, as you might know, Rajiv Gandhi, all of them became Gandhi. Now it's Priyanka Gandhi, and now it's Sonia Gandhi, and then it is Rahul Gandhi. They're actually not Gandhis. So this is exactly the point that we were referring to. One of the weaknesses in India culturally, and we have many strengths like any other country, but one of the cultural weaknesses is elevating people to a godman-like position, so much so that you can't even they become very awkward. They don't know what to do with that kind of attention and adulation. And then you're stuck with this guy because you elevated him, and now you can't bring him down. And so everybody is kissing ass, and to put it crudely, and the country can't do much about it. It's the same mistake that we made with Gandhi, same mistake that we made with Nehru, same mistake you make with Modi, and you will continue to make that mistake, and that's not an encouraging sign for the rest of us.
Do you think that India and the United States overlay very closely? I get the feeling that they're very, very similar. I mean, almost identical, except for the language. The language is essentially what I'm saying is I guess the political, philosophical, economic theory of both countries, I think, overlay very closely.
Yes, the fact that man includes woman for all practical purposes, but man is conceived in the image of God, and that all of you are equal, at least in front of law and the Lord. You are equal. And nobody is better than the other and should never be in front of law. I think those are tremendous parallels and commonplaces that both these countries have, no question. Politically, India and America as you might know, have been on either sides of the gateway. But I think now history has given an opportunity for both these countries to take a step towards each other. Both of them are waltzing a little awkwardly in the dance floor. It's like meeting someone new and you don't know what to do. Particularly if you have to dance for the first time. So some of that is happening. There's some skepticism, there is some overhang, some trauma. All of that is manifesting at the dance floor where the music seems all right. And I think that would be a reasonable way to summarize where the two countries are, the bureaucrats and the bureaucracy and the foreign policy pundits, of course, the politicians, the commerce guys, US Inc. and India Inc. But the Incs have kind of transcended better than most others because corporate America is deeply invested in India, as you know, and corporate India is deeply invested in America, again, as you know. So the entrepreneurs and professionals have crossed over really well. The cultural influences on either side has been impressive. America is still touted to be aspirational in India. American movies are deeply followed. Americans are adored. Anti-American sentiments in the public sphere is non-existent. India is one of the most friendly countries for Americans to travel into, to conduct business in. And vice versa, where Americans have taken a keen following to yoga, to Indian mind sciences, philosophies, theories. Ayurveda is huge. So each of them have a moat, which is their own. Each of them seem to be more than willing to exchange it. But the political sphere, and more importantly, deep state, are deeply circumspect and skeptical about each other, wherein you find, from an Indian perspective, there is anxiety about trusting the American establishment for reasons that Americans would celebrate discussing, generally speaking, and such is the beauty of this country. But there's deep anxiety amongst the Indian deep state saying, can they be trusted? Will they throw us underneath the bus for the gains? Now it's China, tomorrow you could be China, who knows? Kind of a deep skepticism there. So India has to, by definition, try to befriend as many people to buy insurance for her.
But doesn't deep state primarily deal with the state itself and not necessarily other deep states within other states? I mean, that's kind of what the deep state, yeah.
Absolutely. And that's the reason why the art lies in lifting the veil and seeing, yes, the US deep state operates through the US state, you're right. But then when the Indian state is operating with the US state, they also are cognizant of the fact that this is actually the deep state. So the circumspectness, if you will, from the Indian side seems to be, without reasonable doubt, that the American deep state can't be trusted on matters of national security and vital interests. As a consequence, they need to, again, almost like buying insurance, they need to figure out the Russia-India equation, so they're heavily dependent on that. And the last thing that India wants is Russia to be completely usurped by the Chinese and become a vassal state. That will be a net loss for India, given its foreign policy posturing. So we got to allow the Russians to be further usurped on the one side. On the other side, we've got to open up our arms to the Americans. And, there's skepticism across the spectrum saying who's who, what's what do they really want?
Yeah, you guys are really great analysis. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, is lifting more Indians out of poverty, in America, it's my belief, that we're misdirecting all of our money. It should all be going internally. If we're going to waste it, we might as well waste it on ourselves, but we don't do that. So, all the State Department money, the hundreds of billions, the trillions just flowing overseas in arms shipments, in loans. When they say they announced a $50 billion aid package to Ukraine, they take $50 billion out of the U.S. arsenal. So they send over 600 tanks, 600 APCs, 5,000 Stinger missiles. That's how they don't, it's not dollars they're sending them. They're sending them, the equivalency in weapons. And a lot of those weapons, when they get there, will be sold. There's a lot of corrupt people in militaries, that are already getting paid by the U.S. government. All the pensions, all the salaries are being paid by U.S. loans. which will be forgiven, and they're already forgiving those loans. I'm just saying that, like, we have that first world problem, but when you look at the numbers in India and you see the hundreds of millions living in poverty, below the poverty line, whatever, I guess standard, it's arbitrary, but you see these videos of people on YouTube going up to people dying in the streets, giving them a bath, cutting their hair, giving them a new outfit. It's YouTubers. It's YouTubers that are using Google money to help clean up the destitute, and there's a lot of destitute in this country too. Don't get me wrong. They're everywhere. They're on the trains. They're everywhere. There's just, and I live in Chicago. Thousands of people are sleeping in the streets tonight, and they're going to still be there when the snow comes, and they're going to die on a bus stop. The problem is there's no housing. There's nowhere to go. You could go to a shelter, I guess, but maybe they're at capacity.
Yes, and that's for a relatively land-abundant country like the U.S., where there's enough real estate, one would imagine, albeit innocently, for people to build a shelter for themselves, or the government to help them in that project. India is relatively a land-scarce place compared to the U.S. U.S. is a blessed place, so many ways, so blessed, so beautiful. India is blessed in her own right, but real estate is not we're not well endowed in that department, unfortunately. So on relative terms, it's a large country, land mass is large, but in relative terms, it's not. So the thing is, Indians have stopped taking aid from the West for the last 20 years. The government of India, that is. We don't take a single dollar from the West. What we do is we have limited money. We spend it in ways that we think is fair to everyone. We have to find a balance. We've started inviting investments which will create jobs and skills and an honest day's work. So we will not appeal to the philanthropical nature of the West in order to progress. We want to do the hard work, and we want to make the sacrifices, and we think that's dignified for our people. We're not going to hide our poor. We're not communist China. We're like a life partner you'd expect from, you would expect honesty. And, we're poor. Some of us are poor. Some of us are quite wealthy. And we're not going to tell lies to the world, hide our poor, and pretend as though we are rich. We're not going to do that. So since it's an open society, people are free to go anywhere, document anything, and then, create a report and weigh in politically, religiously, philosophically, as the case may be, or just be a person who travels. And that creates a tapestry of content, including what I refer to as guilt tourism, where, upwardly mobile white people mostly tend to take the cameras, go into the slums of India. There are extremely wealthy neighborhoods in urban India, or even rural, extremely wealthy, the kind of wealth that would... there are other guys who focus on that too, by the way, don't get me wrong. But, these guys, they kind of prod on the Westerners who are otherwise innocent, who feel guilty about the affairs of the world. And what Google gives them is a byproduct of this white guilt that they're feeding. And so, it's a cruel world in some ways. But I think, you could either sit down and cry and lambast over how cruel the world is, or you could make it a better place. And I'm quite encouraged to share that India did the right thing by choosing the latter, saying that we don't want your aid. What we want is a fair opportunity into the free marketplace, into the world's largest economy, which we think is a fair country. And I think there should be a place for a country like that.
Well,
Sorry, before you go, Quran, Vincent, I'm trying to bring you up and extract you. I don't know why. You want to step out and then come back in for a moment? That helps sometimes. Sorry, Vince. Go ahead, Quran.
I'll tell you the craziest videos I've ever seen from India, and I know there's a lot of amazing videos on the internet, but this one, to me, I guess at the Ganges, where they're burning bodies, turning them to ashes. When it's not often. I mean, I've never seen videos of cremation in the public. Like that to me was like, it's like something out of a dream, or some weird. It's just so bizarre and hard to fathom. That's life, that's nature. I'm just saying we live in such a hygienic bubble. If you're fortunate that you don't, often come across cremation videos, but there's so many amazing videos. There's like this roving band, and they do all the deities, and they have fire spewing out of the headdress, and it's very shocking and just incredibly awakening. So I just find the culture amazing, how it's dark and scary, but it's all, it's actors, but it's really just like waking you up. I mean, it's something out of the totally out of the ordinary. So it's just one of those wow type moments, no matter whether you're a native or somebody watching it on YouTube halfway around the world.
Yeah, I can see why it evokes such a response. I totally can see that. And, years ago, I was in a nightclub or a pub in Chennai, my city, which is where I live. And I saw this, entourage of 50 or 60 people that were walking inside, and it was a bar side that I was seated in. And these were Americans, and they were all around me, just generally, in the sense that they were ordering their own drink and doing their own shit in a pub. When we started talking, which you'd usually do, 1 second, please, somebody's at the door.
Vincent, can you hear me? Vincent, can you hear me? I don't know. Do you want to say anything, Vincent?
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to mention about what you were talking about, that America was spending too much money abroad. I was just trying to pitch into that, but you guys have shifted the topic somewhere else.
Yeah,
So
you can talk. Yeah, you can talk. Yeah, if you want to say your opinion on that, I mean,
if you look at, I'm just looking at the context of all the civilization that was in the past. Right? If you look at the last 3,000 years or even 5,000 years from Egyptian history all the way to modern days, right? If you look at the society, they are based on dictatorship, and it's based on a small number of people who've got the power. Very small number of people control the country, and you don't have any so-called social economic ladder to climb up. So basically, if you're the royalty, right, if you're the landowner, right, you own all the money, right, you can basically control everything around you. Right? That has been around like that for thousands of years. So if you're poor, right, there's a 80% chance that you will be poor for the rest of your life, and so will be your kids, right? Only when we have entered the modern age, right, like in a Western society, that you start to have the so-called social ladder mobility, right? You can be nobody today, right? But you've done something tomorrow that is great, then you move up, become a billionaire, and vice versa. You can be a billionaire. If you spend all the money on the wrong thing, you can come back down too, right? So if you look at historically, you have the government that control almost everything, yeah. So it's only when we are approaching, these so-called modern days, when you've got private enterprise, human rights are protected, company rights are protected, and you start to have the shift away from the government, the military, to the local private economy, right? So these so-called social machines have changed a lot in the last 100 years, right? And America also exhibit this nature that the government, the military complex, any companies, any organization, any departments want to get larger and larger and larger, right? It's human nature. You want to grow. You want to get more budgets. So the question is, we have this private sector that is really big, right? And the governments are trying to compete with that. So the question is, how do you get that balance between the governments and the private sector, right? The private sector tend to be profit-driven. They're more about efficiency and making gain and making more money for themselves, right? Government, they have a purpose. They also want to get large, right? But the question is, how do you control it? That's why when you look at this Doge thing, right, Elon Musk is saying they get to a point where the national debt has reached 36 trillion, and you'll get a lot larger in the future if you don't control the national debt interest payments. There's more than $1 trillion now, right? So in the past, empires collapse because the governments tend to spend too much. They spend too much time on war, fighting, right? And then they become really weak, right? And they collapse, right? If you look at every empire, they tend to have the same tendency. So the question is, the test for America is that, can they control the spending of governments before it gets out of hand, right? That's the nature of every single nation, for every single empire. right? Once you've got absolute power, you've got too much money to waste on the wrong thing, right? And then there start to be a decline of any empire, right? And this is the turning point for America. Can they reverse this trend?
I don't think so. I mean, if you go to usdebtclock.org, if the whole US was to declare bankruptcy and liquidate, every American would still owe $10,000 to the future government. And that would even be their liquidation as well.
It's 100,000. 100,000.
It's 100,000. Well, yeah, if you go to I'm saying if you look at the assets of the United States and you subtract, anyways, it's the point is, how can the U.S. government, if you look at the unfunded liabilities for the pension payments, it's over 200 trillion. The government can only take it. You know what I'm saying is it is linear. It is not going to change based off of liabilities.
I mean, if you look at
But the unfunded liabilities, hey Vincent, good to see you. Just to quickly get a word in, the unfunded liabilities are long term. But what you got to do is to be fair, look at anticipated revenue for the U.S. government for an equal sum of time. So $55 trillion of unfunded liabilities, including healthcare and pensions and whatnot, which I'm guessing is part of what you're referring to. And that's usually over 35, 40 years. So let's say hypothetically, 2060, the US government ought to have coughed up in toto, aggregatedly, if you will, $50 trillion. Then we go to the revenue side of the balance sheet in the P&L, and then look at how much is she making, and then shore up the deficit without issuing more bonds and taking on board more debt. So the U.S. government makes about $4 trillion in direct tax revenue, from individual tax revenue, and has 65% of the population integrated with the taxation net, which is an impressive feat. The problem is that the wage rates aren't going up. Because if your wage rate goes up by 10%, your taxation, if you hold the threshold, will automatically go up by 10%. So then it's a question of skilled workforce. How do you get the average American person to be considerably more skilled and ready for the 2050 economy? To me, clarity, operational, a one-line thing where everybody understands what needs to be done, and then America has the capacity. I don't understand cynicism about America. I don't. I'm not even American, but I don't get it. I spend time with some of the CEOs. I find that their spirit has been broken. What's most hurting is that the spirit of this country has been broken, and it's a painful sight to watch. I just don't get it.
You're saying the spirit of America?
Say that again, please.
You said the spirit or I guess the state of mind of America is broken?
Yes. Yes, because I've been traveling to the US since the early 90s. Good Lord, it was a completely different sight. And sometimes if you're in the country, you don't see the beautiful things. You build a callus to it. Like Indians build a callus to a beautiful culture. We don't even care, we just drive past it. But for the guy who's from outside, it's a spectacle. So 1990s, early America, you should see the body language of this guy. He'll walk into a gas station, fill it up. It was just incredible. Now you look at people, they seem broken. CEOs have lost, to some degree, faith in the American story. American CEOs. And these include banks, mid-sized banks, over $100 billion. I meet with some of these CEOs. And I personally never thought there'll come a day where an Indian dude has got to remind an American CEO as to why he's got something unique going. I never thought those days would ever come, but it has.
So when you think about the modern finance, when you're in debt, that means you're actually trying to move it across the horizon that you will pay it back through the future provision of your services to someone else, right? So that's all it is doing, right? So any country is a structure of how you serve each other with a time frame. Yeah, that means if I'm in debt, I'm going to work, provide my personal service to someone else. Yeah, for something that I'm trying to, buy in exchange right now. Yeah. So if this structure breaks down, right, it's not a problem because you're basically reshuffling the cards. Yeah. The question is, how do you create such a structure that you're motivating everyone else to be more efficient, right, in the future? Right. That is not a problem. Right. But how do you produce more goods?
The point is, where does the growth come from? The Apples, the Googles, the Microsofts, the Amazons, those companies are already built out and their market cap is in my opinion, max. So the thing is, the stock.
Let me break it down, right? The utopia, right, the American dream, right? Due to the advent of AI, right? Imagine the world that you've got robots that would be roaming across the factory, right? Self-driving car, you have a house robot that will clean the toilet, cook for you, all right? This is a utopia, right? But the fact is, when we get to that point, you don't really, the whole social structure start to have to evolve, right? Imagine that like 100 years ago, when you were all farmers, you have this horse and cows, you've spent most of the time on a piece of land, just basically trying to make dinner, right? That was the life 100 years ago. And now we spend more time watching TV, playing video games, traveling across the world, because the world had to become a lot more efficient because of that, right? So the question is, you want to get out of this debt cycle, right? It's not about working harder, right? It's not about working smarter. It's about having so-called return of black slave into employee, from employee to robotic society. That means you don't have black slave anymore, and you don't have a lot of employees working like 10 hours per day for a crappy company, right? It's about creating a lot of robots, basically doing everything for you, right? That will be the way to solve all the problems. It's not about working harder.
I don't think so. The problem is the government. Full automation is obviously going to go to industrial first, but in terms of like personal optimization, roboticism isn't going to give us the utopia and solve the debt crisis. It's the government itself which is causing the debt crisis, which is.
So the way I would. Sorry, Quran, go ahead, please.
No, I mean it is like a unity between the taxpayers, the voters, and the government itself, where there are voices in the U.S. government that are clearly defined and well listened to by the large segment of the population that is fully aware of the financial crisis and the ludicrous things that this country is spending money on. So I don't know, in India, if they are as collectively, consciously, connected through the internet, maybe in the same way that United States of Americans are now because of Elon Musk and X. Like X is the biggest breakthrough change in terms of the collective consciousness in the US. And that's why Trump won, in my opinion, is because X essentially broke through the blood-brain barrier. And now everyone is neurally networked in a collective conscious way that was being essentially censored and controlled by CIA, FBI, left-wing, liberal, big government, special interest, connected deep state. So, I don't know how India is different in terms of America in terms of like X, but like, has there been a political or collective conscious shift in India as a result of X or some similar type of platform?
100%. It's graver than America. Just to give, some kind of weightage to scale, India added 700 million mobile connections within the last 6 years and has rolled out 5G services 4 years ago. So there are very few pockets. I'm a wildlife person. I love it. And I keep going to jungles. Deep down inside the heart of a jungle where a Bengal tiger would feel somewhat vulnerable and reluctant, you get 5G at less than $1 a month. And what that's done is it's opened up services on the fintech side. If you would be even mildly interested, you can research what the Jam Trinity of India is and how that transformed the landscape. of governance and technology and the brand new fintech revolution that's been spawned in the country in the last 5 years. And Indian internet is its own animal. It's got the scale of China, but it's an open society. It's manslaughter in the sense that ideas get slain and slaughtered every day, and politicians are extremely, hip when it comes to using this platform. And it's just crazy. It's a hilarious. If you're looking for entertainment, plug on to India's Twitter, or now X. And it's probably the most vocal community, even if you compare the American Twitterati or the Edge sites, whatever you call them. The Indian ones will put them to shame. It's entertainment guaranteed. It's a shit show of sorts. It's wonderful, and it's remarkably India. And one of the things, just to give additional color to this, ever since UPI, or the Unified Payment Interface, which is peer-to-peer, mobile-to-mobile transfer of money, was introduced in India, I think it was in the 2017-2018 epoch, India topped the charts globally on number of transactions that transpired on peer-to-peer. So to put things in perspective, India had in 2022, 25 trillion transactions on peer-to-peer, mobile-to-mobile payment services in UPI. And to contrast that, the American and Chinese combined, although in dollar terms were significantly higher, but just to embellish the technology adoption rate, the US-China combined yielded 15 trillion transactions. So the scale of India and the capacity of Indian society to adopt the cutting edge, while they're still figuring out their sanitation and streets and roads, which are getting remarkably improved, thanks to important policies that have happened in the Union in the last 10, 15 years. Put together, and with a culture of itself, a worldview of itself, it's a kingdom of controversies in the sense that whatever you say about India, always remember the exact opposite would also be true. And just to finish and follow through with the story that I was sharing with you in the pub, where we started chatting up with these young men and women, and where you from, what's the deal, what brings you to India, the usual spiel. So, well, I'm from Harvard, and it's an entire Harvard contingent that spent about 4 months in India. And the Kumbh Mela, which is the world's largest congregation of human beings, 300 million people congregate in one area once in 12 years. It's an ocean of humanity, and they were there to map that and track that. And then they hear about for 2 months, and then going into another 2 months. So I was like, okay, what's your experience like? He's like, dude, it was so chaotic, and it was so wonderful, but it was chaotic. And I'm like, okay, was it chaotic? Yeah. So do you think that the people spending time in Kumbh Mela, were they feeling chaos or were they feeling bliss? And they were like, interesting. That's the best thing about Americans, right? Open-minded as fuck. And I was like, interesting, because I think they weren't feeling chaos. And I'm like, yeah, the chaos is in your mind. India is not chaotic. You're projecting the chaos. That includes me. When I say you, I mean people. Those guys are blissful. They're happy. They might be broke. They might be queer. They maybe not. Who knows? But they're experiencing bliss in the apparent chaos that you and I are noticing. So our models have become so fashioned by the marketplace, our ways to operate have become so limited that anybody outside that doesn't fit inside that limited framework is automatically deemed to be living in a chaotic environment. That doesn't mean that India doesn't have chaos. Of course it does. But the thresholds of chaos, what's an ideal environment for an Indian is thriving in the gray. They thrive in the gray, moving parts, so many, what if this is true, this could be true, if that is true, what if that isn't true? It's kind of a 50 shades of gray, reliably so. It's something that they understand very well, and they excel at this. That's one of the reasons, in my conception, why they've done well in technology. It's a deep understanding of the abstractness of the world. And that's manifesting as math. So they could be,
Agreed.
yeah, the straddling of, abstract ideas at the same time with extremely specific mathematic calculations, and bringing them together gives them a cultural niche to play on, and that's the field of technology. Sorry, Vincent, go ahead, please.
But at some point, right, you have to convert that abstract understanding of the world and how you can transform technology into profit for the everyday Joe, right? Otherwise, it's like most empires in the world. The king can be really rich, the royalties are very rich, the landlords can be very rich, but the majority of people are still extremely poor. It's like China, right? They can keep on saying that the second biggest economy in the world, right? But most of the wealth resides within the CCP members, or the cronies within the system. But the majority of the Chinese people are dirt poor, right? So you can say how big the economy is. If the everyday Joe cannot get a piece of that pie, they can enjoy some decent life, that's not a good empire.
That is so true. It is so true. And it's important for people to have a fair opportunity to take a shy at the economic, let's just say opportunity again. And I think that's a challenge, no question. And this is where population and scale can easily bear you down and overwhelm you, no question. And that's one of the reasons why you will see the Indian system time and again invest in its people above everything else. You could look at the broken roads and then ask yourselves the question, are the people better skilled? If unlike the American system, the Indians didn't start off with relative abundance, the government that is. So they had to prioritize saying, do I fix the roads or do I fix electricity so that a child can read? And anyone that hails from a lower middle class strata would be able to empathize with that easily. I don't care what nationality you come from, but if you don't come from abundance, you'll know how your mom and dad had to straddle those worlds and then prioritize your education over everything else. And the Indian government had to do that. So yeah, the roads were cracked, but the people were remarkably better skilled over 20 years. Now, we need to give these people an opportunity, and turns out the roadways and the railways and all these things are important. So now we're investing in that. And it's not perfect. I would like India to grow at 10% a year, but we're growing at 7% a year. And there's much to learn from the world. And I don't look at the Chinese as adversaries. A lot of Indians don't. I think there's much to learn from the Americans, much to learn from the Chinese, and I think Indians should illustrate a willingness to learn and humility, saying, I don't know, and the world opens up phenomenal opportunities the moment you say, I don't know.
I don't think Americans have anything to teach India or China other than play like a contrasting role to their already pre-existing philosophical or psychological philosophies, meaning that like the Upanishads, the Vedas, Bhagavad Gita, the Tao Te Ching, the like Zen Buddhism, Chinese Buddhism, Indian Buddhism, Hinduism, essentially the Atman, what I'm saying, well, this is why I said why I think the US and India overlay so closely. And I don't know what Freemasonry is like in India, but I'm sure there's a lot of Masonic lodges in India.
Yes.
And so like I saw this documentary on Ganapati and the symbolism there. And I'm like, this is like occult sciences. And like you said the term earlier, mind sciences. So I guess my point is, I have no point other than saying that, it's an interesting conversation. I'll just leave it at that.
I mean, if you look at the development, what propelled the society forward in the last, I would say, 50 years, right? Basically was it's an advance of computer, right? The transistor. So Intel brought forward that innovation. So we started to have PCs. And then we have the internet, and then because of the confluence of all technology, right, that created the iPhone through Steve Jobs, right, and then after the proliferation of iPhone or smartphones that created like a $2 trillion of software industry afterwards. So you've got millions of apps that you cannot go out without a phone these days, right? And that gives you like mobile payment and all these things that comes along with it, like Uber, Google, blah, 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 all these things all happening at the same time, right? And the internet help with that. But again, right, to create more productivity, right, that's through AI now. Right. So now the question is, like 50 years ago, when people told you, that, oh no, let's make some PC, right? And so the countries that make a lot of use of PC, right, like America or somewhere else, they make a lot of money, and they created Google, Facebook, Meta, and all the like the Magnificent Seven, right? They make most of the profit in the world. The question is the next phase. Which country is going to make use of technology, or especially AI, right, to create the next like 7 stocks that can dominate the world? So the question is, how do you make use of AI to propel the society forwards? If you look at SpaceX, right? I mean, if you look at people like Elon Musk, he's not rich because he wants to be rich. He's creating things that based on first principle, right? So he's creating a dream, right? The dream is to create a starbase, create a society around the launch site, in Bukit Chica, right? You need a lot of people like that to give human being a new purpose, right? The purpose is not buying more handbags, not putting on more makeup, not just to get rich. It's to have a purpose in life.
The thing about having a purpose versus, if you read the Tao Te Ching, it's like a manual on rulership, which essentially extends into economic, prosperity and standards of living and things like that. So, Howard Hughes was the first billionaire in America responsible for basically the military-industrial complex, all the jets and planes from World War II. He got billions in contracts, failed at everything because his father or his uncle patented a diamond drill bit, and they figured out how to get really deep in drilling with their drill bit patented technology. So Elon, in many ways, like you said, he's giving purpose, but the criticism is going to Mars going to solve our debt crisis? No, it's not. It's not going to provide new housing and lower housing costs. It's not going to. So my point is, the criticism is it's easy to get wrapped up in the hypnosis of a dream about interplanetary, civilization, where he thinks that we have to protect consciousness on Mars. Like, you know what? I'd rather go help those 100 homeless people sleeping on the train tonight.
But the sideshow of so-called Mars exploration, right? He cannot fund it without some profit, right? And then he did it through Starlink. So Starlink is like a monopoly on internet, space internet, right? And the potential market of that market, right? If you assume that there are 8 billion people in the world, there'll be more. Assuming that they spend between $10, like 2 billion in the world don't have access to the internet because they are a poor country, right? Assuming that the total addressable market, right, between like 8 to 9 billion people in the next 50 years, imagine that if even they spend only $10, right, to use this internet, space internet, there's minimum $80 billion revenue every single year, right? It could be a lot bigger. Maximum, I would say 800 billion. That's bigger than Apple, right? So because of his dream trying to go to Mars, he created Starlink in the process that everyone would benefit, unless you don't want to use internet from space in the future. If that's the case, my analysis is not correct, but assuming that 2 billion people in the world don't have access to the internet and potentially they can use Starlink, like Ukraine is using Starlink for whatever reason, right? So that company itself, any revenue can be between 80 billion, right, to 800 billion, right? And that itself is a lot of jobs, can employ a lot of Americans across anywhere in the world. Right. So the sideshow.
General Maureen's of analysis is, for my money, bang on, because the success of a moonshot perhaps will have to be the recipient of more generosity in public imagination. Because even if you fail in the moonshot, what happens subsequently, what comes out of it, technologies and possibilities that can further be accelerated and democratized. And that creates things that we never dreamt of. The American moonshot galvanized the imagination of young boys and girls. And nothing unifies humanity as much as space or sports. Nothing else unifies us. Those little babies that wouldn't have had a shot when they see this rocket launch into the space, there's something surreal about that moment. It's a moment of potential that is presented to a boy or a girl. And, I wouldn't, I entirely submit that the more and more Americans begin to dream, certainly for humanity, East and Cantor, but also for Americans, the more and more you take your moonshots, the more and more do you create opportunities, not just for your people, but also the rest of the world. America is in the business of inventing categories. Nobody else invents categories. They could invent a technology. Like automobiles were around before Henry. But Henry invented, as you know, the assembly line. And then cars are a global industry. The internet was invented by the British, not the Americans. But the Americans put it to use, and now it is what it is. Play Store. Millions of people try to build apps and whatnot. But all of that, the entire industry was invented by Steve Jobs. Americans shouldn't forget who Americans are. Sure, you could have some plumbing crises and some housing crises, but you're land abundant. So it's not rocket science for a government to pass a statute saying every person gets to lease a piece of real estate for $99 for 99 years. You won't be able to choose the place, and then we'll give you your land first, we'll figure out how to build a roof on your head. This is not rocket science, it's not unprecedented. You're fundamentally land abundant, you can do it. But the moonshots have to be kept alive. That's your story.
Yeah, but don't you
dreamers? Don't stop dreaming, please.
But don't you just see the metaphor in occult sciences, rockets, moons? I mean, that's what I'm saying. If you know meditation, you don't need to go to Mars. You can just read the astrology report.
Look, sorry, Vincent, go ahead, please.
It's what you call, explanation bias, right? The reason why there's America, right? Because a dude called Christopher Columbus, who tried to somehow search for Asia on money. So he went over, by borrowing some money from the Queen of Spain, and then moved over. It's like, there's a piece of land. It's called America, right? You don't know why you're going there, but let's find out. It's human bias to do that, right? That's why we all move around the world, right? And as human, right, that's who we are, right? We are curious. It's like monkey walking around. They're trying to explore their surrounding. It's built into your genetic, your DNA, right? Otherwise, you'd be stuck in the ground in the middle of nowhere, right? All these animals living underground. We're human beings, all the explore. To stop that, the system can move on. So once we discover that, by the way, Earth is not a flat piece of land. Oh, there's a sun. Oh my God, there's a universe. Yeah. So what if we have the ability to see beyond Earth, explore other areas? Right. The universe is humongously enormous. Right. It's even bigger than our imagination. Right. And we are living on these tiny dots.
I know, but you're not going to be able to get off this spaceship with other spaceships. This is a huge spaceship we're on. It's alive.
It's basically human imagination. It inspires you to explore sciences. Think about what the sun is, why we have fusion technology, because we actually look at the sun like, wow, where does it get the power from? It's fusion or hydrogen, right? And this imagination, right, this exploration, not just the exploration of the land, exploration of the mind.
I get it, but that's what India has perfected, and what the Chinese have perfected through the Upanishads, through the Tao Te Ching. The mind is already perfected, and listen, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that for sake of argument, that in my opinion, America needs to learn the philosophy and psychology of India and China and stop the doing aspect. I mean, in terms of misallocation of taxpayer dollars.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt you guys. I'm going to have to go out now, but good to see you guys. Quran, good to see you, Vincent Zantrix on the other side. Cheers.
And cheers, bye. So if you look at the Manhattan Project, right? Probably wasn't a good idea, but they did it anyway. So that kind of brought America up a level of when it comes to the technology and the military powers, right? And they defeated Japan with 2 nuclear bombs easily, right? That gave America lots of leeway in shaping international politics, right? Because they had the upper hand for a really long time. Yeah. And that kind of drove an American economy, right? After Second World War, right? The industrial base was built in America, right? And obviously, America gave it up to China, right? I don't know why the American think tank thought that was a good idea, right? That was stupid of them, right? So the industrial base shifted from America to China, right? It could be due to the love for money, right? They want to drive up the profit, right, for the elites. Again, I tried to explain before, right? Every single empire, right, only the top 10% or even fewer the top 10% would get most of the gains. And that behavior, that pattern is repeating itself in America. The think tanks about driving up profit, right? In order to do that, they shift what you call the American employee, right? And basically transfer, right, that back into, what you call, why we had slaves, right? In the last 2,000 years, everywhere had slaves. Every single country was so slave. The slave trade society. And the new word, right, slave, the new word for slave is called low-cost employee, right? And the think tank of America thought that, the cost of labor could only go up in America. The only way to exploit, still maximize profitability for a company, right, is to exploit other country for their cheap labor, right? A new form of black slavery. But other people, dictators wouldn't mind doing that. Let them handle that shit. Right? So America think that move the industrial base from America, right, shifted to China, and China is taking has been taking advantage of that. But obviously, only the top dictators in China get most of the benefits. Most of the cheap labor still perform, right? But there are no choice. So that's a new form of black slavery in China. That's how it works. The dictatorship systems, sometimes they still it's not really changed. It's moved from one place to the other.
I told this point to many times. I told this is a surrogate model, the surrogate mother concept. The surrogate has been abused. So all the wealth doesn't put in the bottom, it's crying out of the bottom. But he calls it development.
You said that the passage, I think it's on Matthew that I quoted from you.
Is Elon still live? Let's see. Oh my God, he's still fucking live. His subscriber count, Elon's subscriber count went up 50,000 just like in the past week.
School? I don't think it is.
Also, that is cool. That is like literally, if you're not, if you don't have the skills needed,
School is an educational facility. Your job is not an educational facility. It is your job.
If you're being trained, you're being educated. You're being trained by
It's not a school.
your school, but you're being
It's not
trained
a
for
place
your
that you
job.
go to get a degree, for instance, or credentials of any kind.
Also,
That's not how that works.
Hold on. First of all, let's think. Hold on. Before we continue, can we establish what we agree on? Because now I'm confused.
Okay, so firstly, before we get to that, do you think Elon would have snapped the way he was? Because if there weren't people literally saying that Elon needs to be fucking deported because he wasn't born in the US. Yes, he wasn't responding to those people directly because you can't respond to something like that when those people are saying, let's fucking kick out all the Indians, any of them who remain, let's kill those people. You can't fucking respond to those people. Right? You have to respond to people.
Right, you block them and you mute them, block them, we'll get them off the platform. Well, obviously, with
that was the
if you
sentiment.
can, but
That was the majority of the sentiment.
not what I saw. That's what I read through, and I didn't have to do that many mutes. That's the whole point. Like, the whole point, that was not the majority. There was definitely a vocal majority. There was a vocal minority that you could not.
It wasn't a minority. There was a lot of them. There was a fuck ton of them. And
It was actually the majority. It was actually the vocal majority. All of that was the vocal majority. That's why all of this escalated to the point that it did. That's why all of this has happened. That's why my presence in the whole thing was so insane. I didn't even know any of this was going to happen, to be honest, as well. Right?
this was organized too. How a conversation starts sets the tone for the rest of the discussion. The fact that you're ignoring that basic fact, that how the conversation is set, basically dictates all the future of the conversation, and then you're ignoring that, and then you're saying,
That's not true.
I ignored all the racists. And I already had a bunch of these people muted, and I didn't even notice until a few days after the discussion had come forward. Like, how can you claim that you actually saw what the majority was?
And before how can you claim what you saw what the majority was? Because hold on. For different spaces, you have different conversations. Like, hold on, I'm asking you a question. So the point is, you equally claim that you're right, and then this, though you and Adrian and several people here are live, you go to a different space, it's different. Obviously, there's that space that Adrian came in and destroyed all.
Well, yeah, I know actually what's going on in all the other spaces. I'll tell you what's going on in all the other spaces. They don't know anything about anything at all, and all they want to do is somehow say, 2016 Donald Trump promised to just get rid of the whole thing entirely. That's kind of their main argument. And then they use various many means to basically stick up for that argument, even though that's not even the thing that was promised in 2024. That is what is going on in other spaces right now. This is why I'm hosting my own space. We didn't even want this to be a discussion, because the discussion was already finished, but everybody else wants to keep harping on it because they still want to extract the engagement. This is also why a lot of people in the tech sphere have decided to mute this dog shit and say, fuck this, I don't want to hear it anymore. Right? Because it's finished. The discussion is finished, but still people don't get it. That's the problem.
To add to that, think about
hold on, super quick, Adrian. I've been in a space earlier today where the person, where people with a direct experience outlined all the issues because they were lawyers, because they were they went through the process, all the issues and everything. And there's a lot of sentiment that's saying,
It doesn't matter.
hold on.
This is going to become a case study of confirmation bias as well.
You can definitely stick to the point if you want to just filter your point. I agree. You can, but the point is,
Andre,
there's still a lot of discussion. But we don't have to have it.
the discussion is Andre. Do you know what the strongest evidence?
Yeah, we can. We don't have to have.
Do you know what the strongest evidence is that this was the majority? Think about how much of a thick skin Elon has, to where nothing bothers him, right? Because he's getting all of these fucking threats. He's getting, he has to take this tiny dose of and he fucking snapped for one of the first times ever. Even when the Democrats were attacking him, he didn't fucking snap like this. You're telling me that for a quote-unquote vocal minority, he ended up snapping and had that type of reaction?
you can have a vocal minority, you throw out some really dirty, racist shit that will make any person
You keep denying the fact. You keep denying the obvious facts.
Hold on. There's a difference between denying and answering this question.
God, talking endlessly over everyone else is going to solve nothing.
But he won't let me provide.
Actually, everybody shut up. Everybody shut up. Okay, this. No. It was not a vocal minority. It was a vocal majority. To deny this is bullshit. That's not an opinion. That is a facts-based assertion.
You're certain.
1 second.
You're gonna have to let me speak. Because I'm trying to provide the context.
You can do it. It's no problem whatsoever. Just needed to say that real quick.
Oh yeah, no, I actually answered my point, right? It was a vocal majority, and I'll tell you why. This whole thing was I hate using the term, but it's a psyop. This thing was coordinated completely. All the people involved, right? All the big names, the conservative names who were pushing this thing, retweeting each other, they were entirely coordinated. Part of this is being driven by the alt tech. They're on Gab.com. If you look at the guy who owns it, Andrew Torba, if you look at his account, he's literally reposting every single thing, linking to them. Anyone who has any opinion on this matter, right? Whether if they oppose H1B, he's linking to it, right? And if there's a person who supports it, he's saying, go point this person out and show that he's wrong. And that's how you have all these directed attacks that are happening right now. You know, the Droiders, the ones who all banned recently, they were a big part of this because they had an organization within X, right? Not like the X itself, but this platform, and they were pushing a lot of this stuff. They're boosting each other and they're driving people into the mentions of all the big, the tech rights, so to speak, like Gary Tan and so on, and to Vivek Ramaswamy. If you look at Vivek's replies, it's full of these people. This was the conversation. This was the vocal majority. I guarantee you, most conservatives, most Republicans, most people who voted for Donald Trump do not care about this issue. If they're on Truth Social, they probably haven't even heard of it, right?
We even had a person on.
The discussion on X.
We even had a person on. Remember, we had a person on who wanted to actually talk about the situation, and they were kind of unaware. It's like, what the hell is even going on? That's the funniest thing. The MAGA base knows, but only because everybody's harping it on, which is insane.
Mm-hmm. That's right. These people who are calling themselves MAGA right now, and they're saying that, you guys all, you hate white people, these are all just the racists. These are the subtards. This is the group of people.
Look at all of the posts that have, and look at the number of likes that are like, I would rather have 1 million illegal Mexicans than 100,000 legal Indians. And look at the number of likes and views those things have.
It was clearly spam. It was clearly spam, and they stated so themselves. This had polluted the conversation with complete irrelevant nonsense, and it's been going on for a very long time.
So, Adrian, I'm sorry, Ian. Well, no, I actually want to back you up here a little bit, Ian, and what Adrian just said is exactly right. This is engagement farming, but it actually was kind of like driving the conversation. I don't think respectfully, because I think you have great stuff. I don't think you really understand how serious the problem was. Just to actually mention Ian, on Ian's feed, people were calling him Ching Chong and all this stuff. Like Ian's one of those hardcore conservative people on X, and always has been. These kinds of things are being said very commonly, and it's not just Laura Loomer, very, very large accounts. Okay.
Has attacked me today. I'm getting death threats. I'm literally getting death threats right now. I could have mentioned there are people telling me to go kill myself. There are people posting videos of ISIS chopping people's heads off, calling for the police to come arrest me in Malaysia. I don't live in Malaysia, but that's what they're doing. They're literally threatening these things, and some of them, I have no doubt, they have done that, right? This is the
exactly. It was really a big thing in report them. Let's weed them out. Let's make sure that we
what's happening. All right, thank you. Welcome back to reality. This is what was happening the entire time. By the way, this is what led to the mass suspension thing that everybody keeps claiming is mass censorship. No, they were all part of the org, and it's a difficult thing to explain, but this is what really happened.
Andre, I literally have...
Hold on, look, Adrian, you keep saying I talk...
Andre, I literally have people trying to find out where I live to fucking come and kill me. Right? Because of this H1B discussion. Right?
And that's terrible. Let's get them reported. Let's single them out and get them reported.
If that's happening to me, how many followers do I have? I have 6.7 thousand followers. How many does Elon have? How many does, I don't know, who else does, Vivek have?
A Sriram was doxxed.
Yeah,
His
exactly.
address was posted on there. Seriously, I mean, this stuff is happening
How
right
can
now.
you claim
and
that
big,
this
bigger heads are pushing it.
you're seeing a forest burning down and you're farming a fucking tree and saying I'm ignoring the forest burning down because I'm focused on this tree?
Hey, Al, Al made a really good point too. He said, like, you know, Elon would not have reacted unless you had to stop the bleeding. This would have destroyed, okay, like the entire onboarding of Trump's agenda if this thing ran without any intervention, okay? So Elon had to completely jump in and say, whoa, hold on a second, and had to get Trump's buy-in, because if he didn't, like, the entire point of the immigration thing was never to just kick all the brown people out, quote unquote, or whatever. It was to make it work, right? It was to make it a functional system, like make America the best. So this was like almost like a psyop. I don't know that I totally agree with that, but it was kind of like a psyop.
I'll tell you how this works. Because it started with Sriram. That's where it started. They targeted a person who had nothing to do with immigration, nothing at all, and made that person the figurehead of the thing to be attacked just because he was Indian. That was it. That was literally it.
And you know what's worse? After Trump issued his basically a declaration supporting the H-1B, they denied it. First, they said it was old. He said it 6 months ago. That's not true. It happened yesterday.
Who's they? You keep saying they. Like, I don't, like, here's the thing.
Let me finish.
No, but you keep saying they. I don't know who's
Yes,
they. There's a lot of people with a lot of dynamics opinion. And if you're saying, if you insist.
Yeah, it's pretty annoying when you interrupt me before I can complete. I will answer who I think they are. Okay, right, let me go on. So, after he issued a statement, what happened? Immediately, all these big figureheads on the quote-unquote MAGA right, who are not actually part of Trump's circle, but they wish they were, and this is part of the motivation that they have, were saying, oh, he didn't say that, he didn't mean it like that, the journalist was lying, the journalist was, he got Trump off guard, he needed to give the context, I have inside information actually confirming this, and everybody falls for it. All the people who are part of this little circle, who are pushing this shit, they want to deny that Trump said anything, that Trump is actually not in the know, and they're saying that Trump is actually too stupid to understand the situation. This is what's going on right now, which is why this conversation keeps going on, because they actually firmly believe that Trump was misled, that he wasn't actually weighing in on the H-1B situation, even though everything he said was cut and dry. You had these big MAGA figureheads pushing this narrative, and they still are pushing it. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about, who said that the journalist lied, right? I'm sure you can know. I'm not going to mention her name, but
I'm asking who's they. I don't know who you're talking about.
Oh,
I have no idea who you're talking about.
People
You're
there's
There's a lot of big accounts, Andre. They're like really,
I'm not
like,
gonna
just
call
go
them out
look for
because
the biggest
it's all
account.
drama.
So first of all,
Right? The moment
like,
I call
I
them
don't
out,
want
it's
to
gonna
reveal who exactly I'm muted. Just
gonna go.
so.
Okay, I will say I have a very limited amount of patience for basic cluelessness. I'm going to say something which nobody else is willing to say because I'm kind of seeing it and I just don't give a shit. The only reason why you are arguing the way you are is because you have a primary issue with the fact that Elon snapped, and specifically in the way he did. Because whenever we have a conversation and we get all of the nonsense arguments out of the way, it always boils down to that. It's the same kind of stuff that I have with the Tesla Q. It's the same shit, right? You have all this irrelevant stuff that doesn't exist, that's not even real, or it's just a fake interpretation. And you boil it down to the core thing, it always comes back to one thing, because everybody has a motivation. The game is just to discover it. And this, I think, is the motivation, because it's the only thing that you have repetitively stated in the exact same way as you've always done, in the exact same context.
I stated Elon snapped, and that's why this matters. Is that what you're? Sorry, Adrian, are you saying?
No. That's not what I said. I know exactly what you're about to say, and that's not. No. Don't twist my words. Don't twist my words. Don't trust my words at all. You have a problem with this. You have a fight in the game. What the fuck is this? Who's called? No. Hang on a second. All right, there we go. Deal with that somehow. Anyways, hang on. Is this still working?
Yeah, it's still working. Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Right. So back to the discussion. You have a problem with how he addressed the whole situation. That's the reason why you're being blissfully ignorant and you're disagreeing with fact-based assertions, labeling them and dismissing them as mere opinions, which they're not. Then you want to get into the details. Then you want to get into the details of how all of this started and who is continuing to amplify the nonsense. And since there are so many of them, we say do a little bit of your own research. You can literally ask Grok. You can literally ask Grok right fucking now. Who spread the most bullshit? You'll get the answer to the thing. You'll get the answer.
Not to mention, you came into the discussion
let me just
late. You had no idea what was going on initially. You were just talking about what Elon said. After, Vivek and Elon and David Sachs had to get involved. David Sachs had to get involved because of all the racism that Serum literally stopped posting on fucking X. David Sachs had to get involved. David Sachs is friends with Elon. Elon had to come in and fucking defend his friend. You think after all the bullshit Elon's been through, when his companies went bankrupt, he didn't snap, Tesla was about to go bankrupt, he didn't snap, the Democrats went after him, he didn't snap. You think it's just normal that after all of this, he's managed to withstand all of this, and this is the one thing that makes him snap when it's a quote-unquote minority?
Guys, you literally just mute me nonstop. You talk a lot, you interrupt, and so forth. I've talked.
You literally go on and on with irrelevant stuff that means absolutely objectively nothing. And when we give something out, when we put something out there to somehow answer these assertions that you have, somehow have a discussion, you just deny them. That's basically your opinion. It's basically your opinion. No, it's not.
Right now, again, what you can do you can definitely mute me into winning this argument.
You're so obsessed with being muted that you cannot speak. That's your fault, not mine.
Yeah, don't complain about it. You literally mute me nonstop.
This is the only thing. This is the only thing. Whenever I mute, you have the ability to bring forth whatever it is that you want to say, but instead you are fixated. You're fixated on the fact that you're being muted. When they fucking did this shit to me, oh my god! When they did this shit to me, in the other space, did I fixate on that? No. Immediately when I could, I started talking, and I started talking about stuff that mattered, not the fact that I was being muted. That's the dumbest fucking thing to do.
Of course, you were. We all heard you. You talked about it. You stopped telling us.
Okay, I've had enough. This is enough. Look, if you are willing to come to the table with something that has an actual fucking value to the discussion, then we'll have the discussion. Right now what you're doing is completely unproductive. You're just being destructive because you have some sort of image in your head that you want to somehow project out there, and it's wrong. And we told you how it's wrong, and you're just unable to accept it. And you're making it look like as if we are the problem.
Right. So.
No, it's up to the left.
And oh wait, no, he's here.
Yeah, he left. Whatever.
Oh wait.
Is he still here?
I don't know.
I was gonna bring up.
So again, let me just clarify just super quick. So Adrian, look, if you have an idea of what the image I want to present, well, please state it, because so far, it's terrible that Elon snapped, and I don't know which point you refer to. I'm not referring to that. What I think is that Elon, the guy with 200 million followers, had a major role in helping this escalate, and I think that's wrong. That's the thing. Of course, hold on, but I do agree with you. 1 second, I do agree with you. He did, if he got, yes, he's the target of everything, so I can imagine the holy shit, yes, maybe I leave that out in my thinking, right? How much target, how much shit, how much bullshit, and so forth. And just to clarify, because, you guys asserted certain things and so forth, every racist, every threat, everything must be reported. Let's get together and do that, because that's disgusting, but this is a meaningful conversation.
Yeah.
Not the racism, the actual H1B and US and so forth.
No one
I can state my position, but we can also end it, I don't have to push. I understand maybe, I think we're in agreement in certain things, like the actual policy things, and we're in disagreement on what happened here. And I see where you guys are coming from. I could be wrong, definitely could be wrong. And I can say my position in terms of what the actual concern was, but that's up to you.
No one says that the conversation had nothing meaningful in it. This is obviously a meaningful conversation. The problem was it started in a racist way, where Shriram or I think that's how you say his name, had to stop using
You know what I'm
that.
saying? The fucking
David
people's name is
Sachs,
so
who's,
stupid.
I believe,
It started in bad faith.
yeah, it started in bad faith. David Sachs had to get involved to defend his friend because of the amount of racism that was
And
happening.
on top of that, the conversation was never really about immigration. It was about distancing Elon from Trump. That's the whole point of the PSYOP. They even stated it, right? What they were doing, stirring the pot. They bragged about stirring the pot, and every single time this happens, they do that. They're going to do this again and again and again. And they're bringing up censorship.
Back to my forest point. You can't start planting a tree when the forest is fucking burning. You have to you have to fucking, stop the fire before you start even discussing planting the tree. You're like, let's ignore the fucking forest fire. Let's just continue planting the tree, and the forest fire is just noise. That's not how it works.
They just wanted to act like there was nothing going on because there was this big era of good feeling. We were all excited. Oh, look, it's the new era. It's morning in America again. And then they thought, well, if we just ignore this, it'll go away. It's not that big of a deal. But when you have accounts that have millions of followers saying that Elon should be deported, Vivek is, racist, or all this stuff. I mean, it was insane. It's still going on, too.
They're blaming Vivek for that, too. They're saying that he hates Americans. They're saying that he calls white people dumb, which is not what he's saying at all, right? He's not saying these things. And they're putting words in his mouth, and this is what the argument that they're stemming from their side is focused on right now. Like, we have to address the elephant in the room. We have to talk about how Vivek actually hates white Americans and how Elon actually hates white Americans and how he thinks we're all stupid.
And
this is what they're focused on. It's one thing after another, and then it's the censorship. Oh my God, they're censoring all of us. We lost our check marks. It's got nothing to do with anything, right? We lost our check marks. He's censoring all people who oppose H-1B. This is completely in bad faith. It's to make Elon look bad. It's to make the platform look bad. And it's all being coordinated, which is why it's being dealt with right now. And we're still getting death threats. We're still getting.
It's a distraction. It's a total distraction. And I even saw somebody say something about JD Vance's wife. Okay, like give me a break. It's like
that shit was fucking unbelievable, man.
Crazy. I mean, so the fact that this, X is a free platform. I think everybody understands when you buy into this platform. This is a free platform. You can say freedom of speech, fine, but can you threaten people and dox their address and say that you're going to send, terroristic threats? No, you can't. You can't do that. And that's how hard this got, Andre. This got to the level that it was not just a matter of people were saying, you're ugly, I disagree with you, I hate your race, whatever. No. People were actually making threats. And let's not pretend for a moment that there aren't a whole lot of people out there who would do harm to Elon and the president. All these people who are high-profile individuals right now, they're all under threat anyway. So
you know what the funniest part is? You know what the funniest part in all of this is? We don't even have to be here. We as people don't even have to fucking be here. But we are here because we're trying to do the right thing. And we're putting our fucking meat in the grinder just to fucking do this.
Also, consider the fact that for the past few days, all the largest spaces with tens of thousands of listeners, including this very space, have been specifically about the racism issue.
And you can look at the many replies. If you want to have evidence, it's right there. And by the way, another thing that I want to address right now before this gets out of hand, okay? People are going to insinuate, oh my God, these people are already defending the idiot people because they have blah, 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 blah. No. We don't have a preference for any individual. We just recognize that people are being attacked and we want to defend them because guess what? Nobody else is willing to do it because they're too fucking afraid. And now you're going to look at this and people are going to clip it and say, oh my God, Adrian's getting unhinged. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. And I have a fucking right to.
You know why some people won't speak out? You notice there are very absent people who could be speaking out against this right now. You could blackmail on them. They know these other influencers, so once they're pushing this, they know that if they were to speak out against them and say, hey, maybe you guys need to tone it down to racism, stop gaslighting. I talk to these guys in private. They tell me they can't say anything. I don't even blame them because there's blackmail on them because they have shared secrets with these other people, which is why a lot of conservatives are remaining silent right now. They don't want to burn their...
This is why everybody's pissed at Ian because there's nothing that they can really hold over him. It's not fucking hilarious. Because he already burnt every bridge.
So now it's like, oh, Ian's a pedophile. Ian's a tranny. You know, he's a trans person. It's like, it's insane. It's literally fucking insane. I'm getting death threats. I'm getting people sending me ISIS videos. ISIS videos of people getting a headshot.
Yeah, I was saying the same thing. I've been called the
It's like such a resort. It's fucking weird, man.
72 hours straight.
Holy shit.
Yeah. If I can just chime in, I've gotten to know Sriram's wife very well, and I've been helping behind the scenes in promoting, what is the positive aspects of Sriram's SCB, what is the good community work he's done. I've been explaining to people about his culture, and a lot of people are very decent, but I'm not going to lie, their family is reeling from these death threats, from these attacks. They're very, very vicious. And people have no idea just the power of their words, what it can do. It's a chilling effect. I'm on spaces all the time. People are saying Elon is a Chinese plant. They're saying things like, Vivek is an agent of India. They're saying horrible things one after the other. They're attacking our president-elect. I'm seeing Mario Wax retweeting a prominent Democrat organizer, supporter. And I'm just like, why is the far right, coordinating with the Democrats now? What's going on?
Well, you literally just kind of put the main point on it. The real war, I think, is about whether or not we accept that violence and threats will chill speech. Because if we accept that, then we are not a society in which we can have a free discussion. We're a society in which the brute force of someone threatening you or sending ISIS videos to whatever this is, that's going to rule the day. And I have to say, that is part of the reason why I think the progressives lost, right? Because they wanted to make it to where you're in jail if you use the wrong pronoun, just like you can be in the UK, okay? So this is where I think this is really where the battle is. And some of the people who have these opinions that I find very objectionable, they're willing to just have the discussion, and they're not going to make the horrible threats. They're just saying, I think we should just end all this. Okay, fine. That's an opinion. I disagree with it for a lot of really good reasons, but that's an opinion. You can have an opinion. We have a discussion about that, and there's people who are doing that. Unfortunately, whether they realize it or not, some of the larger accounts, that have supported the president have unwittingly, I think, given into sort of tacitly endorsing, or at least being silent about some of this difficulty that you mentioned. And this is where we have to draw the line. We say, no, you're not allowed to make threats like that and win the discussion. You have to actually present a better argument. If you can't, then shut up. Go away, or talk about something else, or learn how to calm down and talk like a human being with logic and reason, not with threats. And I think that's where the battle line is.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, on one side, you either mute them or block them, and according to the algorithm, right, that should for the bigger accounts that we don't block them, that should limit their reach. That's the whole point. The other side is you do what Adrian did, I guess, yesterday. I was half in for that space. And Utsa, by the way, it's great what you do, and I'm glad you're on the space. And I don't know if the rest of you guys know, I was recommending to Otto to bring Utsa in. Yes, 2 days ago, because it is important. Because I'm not. Believe me when I say I'm not ignorant of all the racism that's going on, in the sense that there's a lot of racism. What can I do? Condemn it, mute it, block it, but that's it. And then you bring in voices to talk about it. And yes, come on, Adrian, you remember that time you had Destiny on? The amount of racism I had towards me afterwards because of my Russian accent was insane. So I'm not one that will go and say, oh, well, I don't know what it is, and so forth. I clearly have an accent, so it's written, and my name is easy to see, right? But the point I was trying to make is that, look, I understand where you guys are coming from. I think the point the best is summarized is this way. If Elon is part of the administration and impacts all Americans, well, he impacts all Americans. The whole point is that you no longer are your words matter to all Americans. This is who your people are first, right? It doesn't matter if you're part of the American government. It's all Americans. It's not personality first. I understand it's personal, the H-1B to him, the same way it is to me, funny enough. I agree with him on many things, but the thing is, it has to be U.S. first, personality second. It has to be objectively U.S. And he let his personality go while he's in that thing. But another thing is, yes, to be fair, maybe we all, what's it called? Maybe I expect and so forth that's I'm a bit wrong. We're all humans, right? And like you guys said, I can only imagine how much hate he got. And there was that one tweet. He's like, I just logged into Twitter to have people screaming. So to be fair, so yeah, maybe I'm wrong in that sense.
Well, there's a place for discussion. If you have a
I'm definitely wrong on that side. Maybe I'm wrong on that point.
Well, Andre, look, if you want to make the argument that there should be no immigration in the U.S., that everyone who is not Native American should not be here. So all non-Native, actually Native Americans originally from Asia, so I guess that's kind of a problem too. Maybe we leave it for the animals. If you want to make that argument, okay, go right ahead. Because all this nationalism is not even.
Why are you saying this? You heard my.
I'm not saying that you're making the argument. What I'm saying is.
I thought you said, "What if I want to make that argument?"
No, I'm sorry. That's a language thing. I think no. I'd say, but it's a general. Like if someone wants to make the argument and they don't want to threaten and they don't want to send ISIS videos. That's one thing. There are people out there making the argument. I think it's a really crappy argument. But if they want to make it, fine. X is there for them too. But they should not, complain when they get shut down like by people who have a much better argument because their argument is fundamentally flawed. But if you start making threats, you cross a line. And that is part of why X had to step in and say, hey, if you're yelling fire in a crowded theater, which happens to be much stronger than that actually, because it's targeted at specific individuals, okay, who are already threatened targets, then you have to shut that down. It shouldn't be that complicated. And yes, we have to stop the bleeding or else this is going to derail so much of what everyone voted for when they voted for Donald Trump. I mean, this is really a fairly small thing when you think about everyone's concerned about the bigger immigration issue. Why are we getting so hung up in these little tiny, that is where I think Ian has a point. Is it a psyop? I don't know. I don't know that I believe in that. I don't know that I believe in those kind of conspiracies, but it is a reasonable point.
To your point, by the way, that was like one of the early tweets. Like, I kid you not, when I came in here and Adrian Otto were telling me about it, I'm like, this is insane. We're arguing about the color of the drapes before we built the house. You can literally find it on my timeline. It's like on the 25th, I believe I made that tweet.
I know what the Nick Psyop is. The Nick Psyop is about censorship. Those guys, those groypers, they're going to, right now, the movement is trying to push this idea that Elon has been bought. He is owned by BlackRock. That's being pushed right now. And they're also arguing that X was wrong to ban all these people because the claim is that these people were banned because they were talking about H-1Bs. That's not why they were banned, but this is the claim that they're making, and it's taking traction, right? It's gaining traction. This is what they're doing. This is how they gaslight everybody into thinking, oh, if censorship is wrong, X is supposed to be a free speech platform. Why is it banning people for free speech? This is what they're doing right now. You can watch. It's going on right now.
That was literally the allegation of the Spaces. That was literally the allegations of the Spaces, and the reason why I went in there, because I knew that they were full of shit, and I knew that I could prove it. Right? That was the only reason why I even got involved in all of this. Which, if H-1B discussion was the only reason that any of the, if this was the only thing, this, oh my God, how am I gonna fucking put this together?
Hang on.
Give me a sec. If this would have only been about the H-1B discussion, I would have not gotten involved, just kind of faded it, put stuff together, would have been just the same day as every other day. However, the only thing I got involved with was a bunch of people randomly saying, we got our shit taken. So I was like, that's not how that works. You don't just randomly get your shit taken. X doesn't work like that. X would not do that. That doesn't make any sense. They're not a censorship platform. This is not Twitter. There's no way. Turned out that that's exactly what it was. It was all bullshit from the ground up. And we proved it. I went there and proved it. And that's where all the racism stuff then started to show. I was like, holy shit, man, this whole discussion got even worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, I remember that. And I left this space because I'm like, oh, this is insane. But then we had the space the next day. And I think, Jordan, you were the one telling the other guy, dude, why don't you just go appeal it, right? And it was like, I think you're the one who broke the news that all the accounts got unsuspended. Wasn't it you, Jordan?
They unlocked a few of the accounts and they gave a couple of the accounts back. It was about 3 of them. The rest of them, if they were found in violation, I don't know how hard this is to explain, and this is why I stopped speaking for the last about half hour, is that I've explained the same thing 72 hours in a row, and it's written on the website, and I don't know how much harder it is to explain, because I'll be honest, I've talked to some employees over there, and I've asked strictly, and this is the thing, it's about transparency, right? You see, all of the employees across all of Elon's companies are very active on social media. If you have a question, ask. It's just that simple, man. Holy shit. Oh my God. Bro, it's like kindergarten all over again. If you have a question and you're not sure, please raise your hand and we'll get to you properly. Like, it's the same situation. I don't understand how people can't understand that when you sign the verified org, the org is also responsible for you. It's like if you have a manager, your manager is responsible for you. It's just like if you have a lawyer, your lawyer is responsible for you, right? You sign that agreement, right? And if you sign that agreement, you abide by the terms. Now, if you get X amount of reports, like, mind you, they could have been as racist as they want, and they could have had their whole cult.
Hi, Rutu. How are you doing?
It is not why they lost their checkmarks. They are complaining things and they're trying to act like it was censorship. Actually, none of them was censored. They were all
This is so late.
because that's how the system works.
Bro, it's so late. Go to sleep. Oh no.
That's exactly how the system was designed and effectively has worked up until this point. You're going to tell me for 2 years that we've had this organized verification, and then all of a sudden, the one time when something goes wrong and they're actually in violation, now it's a problem? No, it's a problem because
this wasn't even the biggest hit. That's the best part. This isn't even the biggest hit to something that was bad. Like, I still remember there was this one organization that had a bunch of people affiliated with it that each individually kept posting crypto wallet drainers. And what the result of this was that they suspended the org and every single account associated with that org. It was a massive fucking thing. It was thousands of people. I still remember it. Right? Nobody fucking said anything about it because they didn't care because it was about crypto. You know, nobody cares until it becomes part of their narrative. You're not gonna like start advocating for the crypto people. Be like, oh my god, they censored the crypto people. Well, they didn't censor the crypto people. Actually, no, they took down a bunch of people who committed crimes and scammed individuals. Right? Of course, you should take these fuckers out. Of course.
And they do it every day.
Blatantly illegal shit, right? So that was a good thing. That was a really good thing. And now in the case of something like this, with the weird Groyper project, whatever the fuck that account was called, when that was suspended and everything that was connected to it was suspended, that probably had a very good reason. I don't know what the reason is. I don't work at X. I wish X would say something about it, but they don't. And I don't know what the reason is either. But the most likely it's just something with the coordinated spamming that was happening over the last couple of days. Because it had to have been coordinated spamming, because if you look at the engagement on a lot of these posts, it's impossible. It's just absolutely impossible. It doesn't make any sense.
And like I even and like I even said originally, like think about this. Maybe they're trying to give it back, but like,
you see, nobody knows because until you hit the appeal button, you know, nobody knows. You can't force them to do that. So nobody knows who's going to come back. People are going to come back in like a month.
Their accounts back.
Remember what I said at the beginning of all of this? Some of them are probably going to get their accounts back. And the best part about all of this is maybe they're going to wait for it. Maybe they're going to wait for it. They're going to do the same type of shit that the first attacker of mine, Liam Neeson, this fucking idiot, that individual, you know what they did? They raised a huge shitstorm, spread an insane amount of hashtags. I think it was called Sissy Space X or something at the time. Really fucking funny shit somehow. Anyways, they did that. And then they deleted their account, and then Daily Mail, in their infinite fucking wisdom, decided to pick it up and say this guy got banned from X, which did not. So this is not the first time this has been attempted. It's been done in various many different ways over time. It's just that now everybody's paying attention to it. This is a long thing that's been happening over many, many different iterations. Okay? It just happens, and people are going to use it to their advantage somehow. It's just that in this case, you know, a bunch of people who are basically fucking anti-Semites just got suspended because they were coordinating some sort of spam. Well, at least that's how it would seem. Because it's just bullshit. It doesn't look like bullshit. And it was.
You know, other people are not really affected by anything, but they're removing their verifications on purpose, claiming that X took it from them.
Exactly. They just keep making up
I'm
bullshit.
sure
You
that's
can't
happening
prove.
too. Yeah, it looked like it.
Like it's
definitely looked like some of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, go
This has happened before. This has happened before in many different ways. Yeah, then they make memes about it, right? They have like AI generated Indian people and all this kind of bullshit. They say, "My God, Elon's gonna take my check mark." No one's gonna take your fucking check mark. It's bullshit.
Take it away. Why would they?
Exactly.
They're saying, you know, they tried to scare people. I know people in that group. They're decent people. A lot of them are decent. The conservative OG group, right? The main account got hit. Not really sure why. I'm not sure why, by the way. I actually don't know why it got hit. Whether it got hit or whether they took it off themselves. They told me that they got hit and they have no idea. Right? I have a few guesses. Right?
Somebody said that Elon Musk has an entire dick-riding industrial complex. What?
That's pretty funny.
See, that's what I'm talking about. It's just bullshit at this point. Everybody's taking this way too seriously.
And then they were complaining it. People were like, Laura Loomer was claiming, right, that all these people in that group were hit because they were talking about H-1B.
Yeah, they said it was political targeting, which is all bullshit. It wasn't political targeting of any kind. It was just people spamming and one person accidentally doxing someone, for which you, of course, apologize, right? Let's keep that in mind. She didn't apologize for that. Yeah. Okay? So, but that was the cause.
She lied about it at first, remember?
It is true. It is true. But apologies are apologies. And we're taking them. It was a good apology. She made a good apology. There you go. That's how we're gonna bury that. That's a pretty good thing. You know, right? We can still talk about it.
Yeah, she fucked up.
Yeah, she fucked up and she admitted it.
Everyone
Good
else
stuff.
ran with it because it was a convenient narrative. They were like, oh, political targeting. Elon is bashing his critics. He's censoring them. He's taking away their monetization. And it's like, guess what? Every single one of those people in that group just got their monetization back. They never lost it in the first place. It was just the verification. That was it. That was literally it. It was just temporary because, and it's not like, and you can say, why is it temporary? Why did they lose it all? Well, it's because that's how the system works. It's like when you change your bio, right, you remove your verification for about 2 days. That's what happened.
And I will say, by the way, Laura Loomer got an incredible deal. Laura Loomer got an incredible deal with this. You know why? Because there was an accidental doxing. Normally under this, you'd instantly get suspended and never come back. What did she get? She got locked up for like 12 hours. That's nothing.
Yeah, it was nothing. Yeah.
To be honest with you, that's what we call in the social media business, an influencer slap on the wrist.
That's what it is. Yeah. It happens on TikTok and it happens on Twitch quite a bit. You can fuck up and they just slap you on the wrist.
We'll slap you on the wrist. Hey, don't do it again or else. That it's just that simple. And the thing is that then here's the worst part, and this is the part that now you've made me speak up about things that I don't believe are right. Conservative OG decides to go post some public spew, I think this morning, about how everybody's check marks were taken. I just mind you, just to prove a point, I subscribe to just about every single person here that has subscriptions enabled, right? So I know it works, one, for everybody. Two, I know that everybody under conservative OG that got it taken, all of their monetization is there because I was able to execute the payments, which means that it went all through Stripe and they got all their payments. So the only person left is Laura, who has, the largest amount of subscribers. Like I told her from the gate, from the very fucking gate, 2,500 times X amount of dollars. It doesn't matter how many it is. whoever the support agent is has to get an approval to say, hey, I got to reverse all these. It does not matter. Like people don't understand that there's a process to certain things, and it's a fucking Sunday. Nobody is there. Banks aren't processing transfers same day, nothing. So it does not matter what you say, what you do. You do not move the force of the world. You don't move when the ticking bell decides to go off. It's just what it is. You need to wait. And unfortunately, what? None of us own the platform, right? So guess what? We can only lead you down the steps that we would take those steps, and then just pause and wait.
Well, Jordan, is there any social app anywhere, any app, anything you can think of that has as much incredible accessibility, right? I mean, there's, as you said earlier, I think, there's ex-employees all over this platform. Kettlebell Dan and all these other experts, they'll all help if you ask them. They're all very, I mean, don't spam them, right?
But that's not the point. The point is that instead of asking for help, like how I would ask for help, instead,
they created a narrative.
No, she didn't create a narrative. She jumped on the timeline and decided to lash out. And then everybody decided, oh, she's let me cloud chase. And when Adrian says, and here's the thing, when Adrian says unsurmountable damage, when everybody decides to go on vacation for Christmas, and then she decides to burn the Christmas tree before with all the presents underneath it, and now everybody, instead of being with their family, they're trying to jump on fires, and they're calling different people to try and figure it out, what's going on, this, that, the third. Now you fucking ruined Christmas. You don't understand. Everybody this year is going to say, hey, how was your Christmas? Well, it was pretty good. I was spending time with my family. And Laura Loomer decided to get on the timeline and ruin everything. That's exactly what
this whole internet war. It was very interesting. Yeah, let me tell you all about it. Like, can you imagine what it's going to be like after New Year's? The fucking legacy media employees opening up their laptops. Dude, I do not envy whoever has to sit through this.
Honestly,
I do not envy them whatsoever.